Good evening, gentle friends. This is Sujai Johnston here, recording this evening with Lelia Schott of Synergy, Gentle Parenting Resources, and admin for Gentle Parents Unite. We're here tonight. We're going to be talking about raising teens and maintaining connection and communication with our teens. It can be really hard to maintain that communication with teens because a lot of the things they go through are really intense and heavy and can sometimes be the types of things that are really hard to share with anybody. Would you agree with that, Lelia?
I would. I think for some parents, they feel a sense of shame or maybe doubt, wondering if they're doing it wrong or if they're the only ones struggling, when in actual fact, I think all parents struggle. It's in different ways and at different stages.
Yes.
Mm.
Parenting teens can be so hard because I feel like on one hand, they're getting to this place where they're like almost adults, and yet at the same time, they're just babies.
I agree. There's so much want to be cared for at times, and to maintain that strong connection with us. But they also want to move, away from us a little bit and establish autonomy and have a different identity to us. And so it can feel like a push and a pull.
Yes, exactly. It's a dance.
Exactly.
My 14-year-old, sometimes he'll come up and, sit on my lap still, and he's bigger than I am. And then other times he's like barely wants anything to do with me at all.
Right, exactly. And they can experience so many different emotions in one day. And sometimes we can take those personally, but it isn't personal. I actually think it's a privilege that we have children that are teenagers and still sit on our laps and still share all their difficult, messy emotions with us. I try and remember that when I'm feeling overwhelmed.
It is a privilege, and I really think that it's fostered through, we try and build these connections from the young ages and early life, but it's really fostered through maintaining being that safe space and holding space for them to have those emotions that they cycle through, since they're affected by so many outside sources. They have peer pressure, they have higher pressure at school, and then they have these hormones that are out of control. And they're learning about themselves and their sexuality and, what kind of things they want to maybe endeavor in when they grow up. And, there's a lot of defining of oneself that happens kind of abruptly in a very short period of time.
Right, exactly. So I have a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 17-year-old son, and a 14-year-old daughter. And then I have two littlies. But having the older boys, I have noticed how quickly the teen years actually go. So with the older ones, I'd heard that the teen years were the hardest and the most challenging and awful, and to brace myself for them. And I think I expected the worst. And we did have difficult times, but they actually flew by. I know you have a 21-year-old son as well, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I can't even believe it. There's such precious moments, and it's so surprising to look back and think that my baby's, he's living out on his own now. And it was gone in a heartbeat from the time he was 10 to now.
Exactly.
I feel like there were many missed opportunities in that time, just in not realizing how quickly it would go by.
Exactly. That's why I mentioned it, because I also have regrets, if I had only known that it was so fleeting, perhaps I would have invested more time, and I would have been a little less scared of trying to control, even though I thought I wasn't. Hi, Caleb. Even though I thought I was being very conscious, I think underneath that I was still unaware, and it was the unknown. It was all new to me. Now with the middle two, I am far more relaxed. I understand that they're going to try different things and they're going to have different ideas, and that's okay. Even if I don't agree with them, it's totally fine. It's wonderful. And I was worried about them being so idealistic. The older two, I was like, oh my gosh, they need to get a grip. Like, have I prepared them? Why are they like this? And now I'm like, oh, it's just how they're meant to be. They're so optimistic, and it's actually refreshing and beautiful, and they'll discover on their own what the world is like, and why do I want to ruin that for them,
So what would you think is like the foundation, the main things that kind of help maintain the relationship with your older children, help them through these difficult years?
I think for me it was definitely doing so much inner work, working on myself and really trying to control myself, and allowing them to just be in my presence without judgment or criticism, or obviously no shame and blame. But I really had to work on not, like I said, worrying about the decisions that they made, and just being somebody safe that they could talk to. I had to work really hard on that, on being a safe place for my children, not breaking trust, not sharing things that they told me with others out of concern because I needed a safe space to talk to. That I think was one of the best things that I did, just really working hard on them knowing that I was trustworthy and that they were entitled to as much privacy with what they shared with me as a an adult because they're just as worthy of respect. And then the second thing is obviously finding lots of opportunities for connection, doing something that each child enjoyed doing with me, even if I didn't necessarily enjoy it.
Right.
I felt like that meant
world.
Right. What do you think?
I think that is really important aspect that you brought up, of really meeting them in their world and doing things that they like. A lot of times when we're trying to connect with people, we think of things that seem fun to us or something that we think they should like. And a lot of times the best connection is actually found in those moments when, you dive in and decide to play some video games with them, or you sit with them and see what they play on their phone, and, just kind of really meet them there in their world without any judgment of it. And let them talk freely about their Pokemon or...
Yes, exactly. I think it's such a wonderful skill to give them as well, because when they get a little bit older, I'm sure you've also noticed that they try and do things with me now that they know I enjoy. So my second son, we will get in the car to go fetch his younger siblings, and we will stop and get a takeaway coffee, and he'll play all my old music that I know he isn't really interested in, but he's taken the time to download it, and it just changes my mood, and we have the windows down and we just enjoy being together. And I feel like that's such a beautiful quality. And I know it's because I used to play video games with him, and he knew I didn't really like video games, and I was worried that he played them too often. But when I let go of all my expectations and all the things that I enjoyed, and I tried to get into his world, it opened up a whole new relationship for the two of us. I think he felt that I valued him.
Yes, and that is so important. I think especially, it's so important for all humans. We we really want to feel valued and important, and like the things that we care about matter. But I think it's particularly important with young adults as they're kind of coming into their selves, and while they're pushing away, knowing that they have to step away and setting up their identity, it's also really a scary place to be, and feeling valued in that time can really carry them through a lot of hardships.
That's so true. Because I do think that I remember when I was a teenager, the emotions are so extreme, and the peer pressure, it feels like your friends and what they think and what they're interested in is your whole world. I don't think when I was a teenager, I could have imagined that one day their opinions wouldn't have mattered. So I try and keep that in mind when I'm feeling frustrated with them about certain things. I try and remember that it is a difficult stage.
It is. There's just so much pressure, and something that people don't talk about much is that it's also the time when hereditary mental illnesses and those kinds of struggles tend to show their face. And a lot of depression and anxiety and further struggles really can come up around these ages when they start getting into the teen years. It's something that can come as an extra shock to everything else that's happening. There's so much pressure anyways, and then when these things come up, both of my older children struggle with some hereditary mental illnesses, unfortunately, and it's something that's been a real road to learning how to get some extra coping skills and how to work through this and be supportive and maintain our strength as a family and connection through it all.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I feel like it's a wonderful time to be living in, where we have access to resources and information and so much support online. Obviously, it can become a distraction, but in moderation, I find it very comforting. And I've also experienced what you were saying now with two of my children. We've been able to talk about how their early childhood, where I was an attachment parent, but I would definitely not say that they had a gentle or peaceful home environment at all. And we've spoken about how that has contributed to their anxiety, and worked through how they can reparent themselves in the areas where their needs were not fulfilled. And I've apologized for that probably too much. I think that's something we also need to be so mindful of. Is I found that the guilt was quite overwhelming for me for a very long time. And just learning that we did the best we could with what we knew. We really did. I believe everybody is trying to do the best that they can. And now that I have better coping mechanisms and I've been able to pinpoint my triggers, I am a better parent. And I think the older children have seen that, and we've discussed it, and they've said that has helped them to feel comforted that we are always growing, and the areas that they feel they are still immature in, it's relieved that stress for them, knowing that everybody is growing, everybody is trying to do better, it never ends, and that they don't have to get it all together right now. Because I do see that pressure on teenagers. What are you going to do, and how are you going to provide for yourself? And their whole lives they've been told what to do and when to do it, by the schooling system and just by society in general. And then in just a blink of an eye, now they have to know how to do everything by themselves and make decisions on their own. So that's also something that I've been trying to change for my other children, giving them far more opportunities to make their own choices and to learn from their mistakes, and so that they don't feel thrown in the deep end once they've finished school or finished unschooling.
Absolutely. and providing support through that kind of is also really key. Learning how to kind of guide and teach and support, and also learning to be there when choices are made that were, not the ideal choices and maybe not what we had hoped for. Learning to be there to support without judgment through that is definitely very important. Basically, for working with teens, I think that we would probably both agree that the biggest aspects are just really listening to them and hearing them, meeting them in their world, and trying to understand who they are and allowing them to make their own decisions and, kind of fall when that happens and be there to pick them up and help guide them towards making decisions that will better their lives in the long run.
Definitely.
I think another thing that's so important is trust. Our children are so wise, and they're far wiser than we tend to give them credit for. A lot of times we get so worried about all of these dangers and pitfalls and things that are out there, and it's our job to keep our children safe, that we often don't trust their judgment. And as a result of the fear that comes from not trusting that judgment, we tend to try and control our children and make choices for them. And in essence, that exact thing is what pushes them away.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I agree. And I think if you are fortunate enough to know about gentle parenting from a younger age, when your children are just born or at any stage, I know that a lot of us have only found out about it after we've had children, but it's never too late. As Sujai and I have both worked with parents that have, managed to reconnect and repair the relationship and to build that trust. And that is the wonderful thing about a parent-child relationship is, I believe that children deeply, deeply want to feel connected and to know that they belong unconditionally to their parents. They are just craving that, and we have to be so careful not to take advantage of that, but to use it for good, because that is where our influence lies. When our children feel safe with us and loved no matter what, beautiful things happen. And that's why we don't have to have control, because we have that connection. And that is forever, whereas control is always only temporary.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I could not agree more. That all such powerful stuff. I, I feel like it's so interesting too, but when we get into that connection and everything, that's really where the cooperation that we hope for exists. When we can really find that place of understanding and acceptance and love, that's the place where people are so willing to play on a team because they feel like they're part of a team and they belong to a team and they're part of something and they want to do their part on that team. And for children of all ages, having this kind of a relationship with your children where there's a lot of trust and understanding and the connection, that's truly where everything that we hope to have in our relationship with our children and the external things that we hope, the helping around the house and helping with the siblings and all of that stuff, it really is based around that connection and that trust and that love and just feeling that sense of belonging. And our relationships really evolve when we allow them to get to that place.
Yes, exactly. Allow them to feel like they belong, but they are also, free to belong to themselves. And that can feel quite challenging until you understand the concept. And I love what Dr. Gabor Mate said. He said, attachment is, us, and authenticity is me. And I think those two, I always think of it as like a little mantra that I have, is that attachment and authenticity, I just often say it over and over again, that those two things are not opposites. They complement one another. They bring about harmony when we all can just be ourselves, because that's what our kids really want. They want us to be ourselves and they want to be themselves. We don't have to be alike, and if we are, that's great, but we can be completely different and still honor one another and still enjoy being together. And I wish parents would understand that their children don't have to be mini-me's. They don't have to like the sports or enjoy the same books or enjoy the same, wearing the same clothes or anything. I remember when my son first got face piercing, I'll be honest, it was difficult for me. But just accepting the fact that he is his own person and letting him know. And I often wonder if it wasn't a little bit of a test for him, that he was waiting to see if we would truly love him with his face piercing. And of course we did. That they're going to have different fashions to us like we did, when we were teenagers. And that's completely okay. We should remember not to get caught up in all those superficial things and remember that the relationship is the most important thing that we need to be focusing on.
Absolutely. And those things are really forms of self-expression, and accepting and embracing them can also be a great place to find connection, I think.
Yes.
As opposed
Definitely.
to judging them and kind of pushing a wedge into our relationship. If we dig into the styles and the feelings behind the styles and all of that, we might find something there of a passion.
Yes.
There's a lot we say about who we are in the choices that we make, and when people take interest in, those subtle things, it really shows a greater depth of interest in who they are, which shows that greater depth of caring.
I must say, I've enjoyed parenting teens. I've loved it. I think it's one of the best seasons of my life.
Yes. I love watching my children blossom into these wonderful, amazing human beings. And I feel that, there's all this fear around, if we parent wrong and what our children are going to become. And again, I go back to that trust where if we're teaching and our children are always learning from us and from our environments and everything, and if we're teaching and modeling good values and good lifestyles and sharing strong roots and foundations with our children, they're going to grow up to be good people. They are, because they're good people anyways, and they've been exposed to good things. And therefore, through love and connection and kindness, our children very much will grow up to learn to model and reflect the love and kindness and compassion that they were raised with. And they will touch the lives of others and their children's with the same connections and understandings and empathy, which we were able, and grace that we were able to show them through their lives.
Yes, exactly. And I think just resting in the fact that our role will be often what they determine as they get older. I've realized that sometimes, as much as I am longing to connect with them, that sometimes they do not feel the same way. Sometimes they're needing space, and I don't need to be fearful or take it personally. They're not rejecting me. And I mention that because for a long time I wondered if it was something that I was doing wrong. And then I read so many articles by people who I trust that reassured me that this was nature's way, that for some teenagers, they actually want to be a lot closer to their parents and spend a lot of time with them. And I have teens like that. And it is very comforting because you know where they are. And with others, they don't want to be home. They want to be with their friends all the time. But there are pros and cons to both, you know. And just resting in that each child, if you provide a safe environment, each child is able to have their needs met. And it may look different. So if you see your friend's teenager always at home and going for coffee and going for petties together, and your child wants to go to the beach and surf all day long with their friends, I think we have to be careful not to worry that it's because we are not fulfilling our children's needs. Sometimes that is what they need, to be apart from us. And as long as they know that they're always welcome and we're always trying to make those physical connections, sometimes I think that's the best we can do. We can't force ourselves on our children or on our teenagers.
Sweet. I think that was good. What do you think?
I do. And I also think it's great that you have Caleb in the background. Well done, Caleb, because you make it real. And I think that is one of the things that I disagreed a little bit with when we learned that you should never have children in the background at all. I think it's okay to have kids as long as they're not screaming and interrupting you or that the person can't hear. But sweet little noises of Caleb playing now, I think it makes parents realize that we are parents too. We are not just sitting in some comfortable office without any parental responsibility telling other people that it's great and it's all peaceful and gentle and conscious, because it's easy to be peaceful and gentle and conscious when you don't have kids. So I think it's cool. You know, when you were breastfeeding on that video, I thought, wow, that's going to reach moms who are sitting there thinking, I can't handle when people give me advice and they don't know where I'm at. But with you, it's like, okay, she knows where I'm at. She's like doing a parenting thing with a baby on her boob. Like, she really gets it.
I know. I'm like, oh gosh, that's so unprofessional, but you're totally right. Like, because he was very quiet and his noises were all.
Yes. And then it sort of makes it seem like it's more possible to be this peaceful parent if they are managing to be most of the time conscious and peaceful, but they're actually living it. Because it is different with little kids multitasking, and the anxiety is kind of always there for me. I don't know if it is for you, but
oh God, it's always there.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I think it was awesome.
Yes, I'm so excited about this, and we'll have to do it again on new and different topics.
So I love this. And I was also chatting to another woman who's an unschooler, and she was saying to me, because she knows so much about unschooling, and I said, how do you know so much? Because, you know, you're unschooling, you don't have time to like read stuff and everything. She said, I don't. I just listen to podcasts. Like while I'm cleaning the house and while I'm driving in the car, I just listen to podcasts all the time on my Walkman, like while the kids are playing in the garden. And I was thinking, wow, well, that's what people can do now with these.
Absolutely.
You know, because that's like watching a video on your phone, seems like you're not connecting with your kids, but if you're just listening and still watching them, and you can wave at them and, you know, give them whatever validation they need while they're on the jungle gym or on the sports field or whatever, but you yourself are able to still be fed something, I think it's wonderful. Okay, well, thank you for doing it this time, Sujai.
Oh, no worries. I love this. I love this idea, and I love this conversation, and I totally love you.
I love you too. Okay, have sweet dreams.